So the name of my talk is, Can We Open Source AGI? And whatever you believe, for the next 15 minutes or so, I would invite you to put on your curiosity hat, because curiosity is what led me to learn all the things that I have about AI over the last couple years and get involved. And I would like to share with you over the next few minutes what I've learned working at the frontier of AI reasoning. Now, maybe you take it as a given that we should try to discover AGI, but I think not everyone agrees with that. And maybe you've just never really given it much thought. Like, should we? I'm not really sure. So I'm going to start first with why I personally think that we should try to discover AGI. So I'm Mike Knoop. I co-founded Zapier. Zapier is the world's largest fully automated AI platform now today. And a few months ago, I co-founded ArcPrize, which is the world's largest AGI research competition. My personal mission across both has been to pull forward the future so that more people, more humans can experience the extraordinary benefits of future technology sooner and today. During COVID a few years ago, I had my first daughter, and I think one of the things that surprised me about having a first kid was I started sort of thinking in decades instead of years like I had. I was sort of thinking about where would my family be in 10 years, where would Zapier be at in 10 years, where would my daughter be at in 10 years. And that led me to sort of make a pretty interesting observation, which is that you can take a baby that's born like today in 2024, drop them into the past 5,000 years ago, and they would be perfectly successful. And you could also take that same baby and put them in the future 5,000 years, and they would be perfectly successful, assuming civilization still exists. And I think what this shows, though, is that human advancement and progress is not defined by our sort of biological advancement. Instead, it's by the cumulative knowledge, technological and moral progress that we've made along our history, along our tech tree. And I think one of the major arcs of technology over human history has been to build and distribute tools for automation that increase individual personal leverage. And that has allowed us to advance more quickly through that progress and tech tree. The narrow AI that we have today in 2024 can solve problems that we know about. I call these the known unknowns. Things like the things that are just on the precipice of being possible. Things like knowledge work automation or protein folding, or gene editing, or full self-driving. But artificial general intelligence, or AGI, is what we need if we want to accelerate our discovery of the unknown unknowns. Once we discover AGI, it's going to touch immediately every branch of our technology tree, unlike the narrow AI that today has to be guided by humans. Now, I think this concept of like unknown unknowns is kind of an abstract one. It's kind of hard to grok and understand. So I want to try and give you a sense of what these unknown unknowns might be. And to do that, I want to try a small thought experiment. So I want you to rewind the clock here 600 years back to the 1400s and imagine yourself in this environment. You travel by foot, likely, or cart and horse. All work is done by human or animal muscle power. Communication is spoken or handwritten, and it's delivered by a messenger. Books still are completely copied by hand, and literacy is limited to clergy and nobility. But there's this really cool thing that just got invented, and it's spreading very quickly, and it's called the printing press. Now, around this technology, there is a lot of fear. Pope Alexander VI threatens publishers with excommunication. People are saying things like, a glut of books will ruin literature, and hey, these paperback books, they're never going to be permanent. They lack the permanence of our writing today. But there's also hope and excitement. I think some are clearly seeing, you can see with these quotes, that they're seeing the way information might proliferate around the world. And some are even predicting a new golden age of knowledge. From this vantage point in the 1400s, imagine trying to think of what will the world be like in 2024, 600 years later, that will come as a result of the invention of this new printing press technology. I think if you were trying to do that exercise, you might think of things like, the mass production will reduce the cost of books. We'll have a rapid spread of new ideas. will accelerate our pace of scientific advancement as scientists can share their discoveries more widely. And there will be social and political change that follows much more independent critical thought. Now, we have the fortune of living in 2024, and we can actually zoom ahead 600 years. So what does the terminal node of today's tech tree beyond the printing press look like? Wikipedia. Now imagine trying to explain not only what Wikipedia is, but how you access it to somebody in the 1400s. This would be a complete unknown. They couldn't even imagine what this could be. You go ahead a few more hundreds of years to the 1900s, you can imagine witnessing the invention of the airplane. You might imagine witnessing that invention that yes, freedom to travel anywhere. We're gonna have faster ability to ship goods and services all around the world. And of course, the military and defense applications of this technology. But again, we get to the benefit of the future. We are actually in 2024. What does 2024 look like on the terminal end of the invention of flight? We just discovered water on Mars. Now, I think this would have been a pretty unimaginable thing, again, to someone in the early 1900s witnessing that first Wright brothers flight. I think these are two really good examples of unknown unknowns, things that when we first invented the initial technology, we could not predict all of the benefits and discoveries and progress that we would make hundreds of years into the future as a result of that. And this story is not unique. It repeats over and over across every branch of our technology tree. Try to imagine 600 years from now, what is 2624 going to look like? Heck, even just imagine 100 years from now, 2124. All of these tech trees are going to continue to advance. And that future is filled with the same exciting, sometimes scary, and unimaginable discoveries and benefits. I personally want to live in that future, and I want humanity to benefit from more of these unknown unknowns sooner. And to do that, we need AGI to help us accelerate faster along this tech tree. AGI could help us accelerate 100 years and 50, or maybe even 20. But the narrow AI we have today in 2024 won't get there, because it still requires a human in the loop, which means advancement is always going to be rate limited by our human general intelligence and not artificial general intelligence. Okay, now hopefully I've inspired you and provided maybe a little more motivation why we might want to discover AGI. So let's check in and see how that discovery of AGI is going. Now, AI research has been going on for decades, and I'm going to start my timeline in the 2010s, because I actually think this is when the sort of advancement of artificial general intelligence really started to take off. And here's a quick highlight of a few of the major innovation milestones over the 2010s. I'll start with the sequence-to-sequence paper that was written by Ilya Sussberg at Google at the time. He was working on machine translation, and he was using RNNs and CNNs to allow these systems to do variable length translation. And he published. This published research got picked up by Banadao, who was working at Jacobs University at the time. And he created the idea and system of attention. You might have heard of this in AI. This allowed variable length sequences and for you to look at different parts of the input sequences in order to predict the output. That research was publicly published, and it was picked up by Vaswani and Shazir at Google, who created and wrote the Attention is All You Need paper. They realized those CNNs and RNNs were not essential parts of the technology, and they simplified it, and they created the transformer. Now, that transformer technology was realized by Alec Radford and Ilya, now working back at OpenAI, who used that discovery to create GPT-2, GPT-3, and so on to the technology we have today. And that's really, the transformer was the head of the AGI tech tree coming out of the 2010s era. And today, 7 years later, after the discovery of the transformer, it is still the head of the tech tree. My work on AI at Zapier was one of my first hints that maybe the transformer and large language models are not enough to reach AGI. I've spoken with hundreds of Zapier users and customers over the last several years who are trying to use AI in their businesses. And their feedback to me has been very loud and very clear. They don't trust AI, and specifically because it is not reliable enough for them. And this chart is I think this chart shows that while AI has been getting certainly faster and cheaper, and we have more model choice than ever thanks to open source catching up recently, it doesn't seem to be getting more reliable. And no one seems to know how to make this technology more reliable. My research into this problem is what led me to discover Francois Chollet's work. He published in 2019 a paper called On Measure of Intelligence, and he published a benchmark called ARC in order to measure AGI. Now this benchmark, if you haven't seen it before, it's a series of puzzles that look like little IQ puzzles, and they're designed to be very easy and straightforward for humans, but very hard for AI. The benchmark was designed to resist memorization, which is the very thing that large language models are superhuman at. This is the world's, as I found out, only AGI benchmark that actually attempts to measure AGI as opposed to the narrow AI. Now, if the definition's a little muddy to you, let me give you a thought experiment to help kind of distinguish these two things. So we've had AI systems for many years now that can outperform humans at games of skill, things like poker and Go and chess and even recently diplomacy. However, the way that we've achieved those, the way researchers have achieved those feats is they have to start over from zero for every single new skill. They have to build a new system, a new architecture, new search algorithms, new training data, new levels of scale in many cases. And yet that is completely in contrast to how all of you learn. I could sit every single person down in this room, and today I could teach you a new card game. Tomorrow I could teach you a new board game. The day after that I could teach you a new sport. And this shows that your ability to just apply skill is not what makes you generally intelligent. Instead, it is your unique ability to efficiently, highly efficiently acquire a new skill and apply it. That is what makes all of you generally intelligent. And no AI system can do this today, and more, no one knows how to build an AI system that can do this today. Unlike all of these other AI benchmarks that have been saturating up to human-level performance faster and faster over the last 5 years, ARC has remained stubbornly unbeaten. And interestingly enough, progress has actually been slowing down coming into this year. The more time I spent researching this, the more concerned I got, because not only did I figure out or think or realize that frontier progress towards AGI has actually stalled out, but the AI innovation environment we find ourselves in 2024 is incredibly weak compared to that 2010 era I showed you. In 2023, last year, there was $20 billion invested into LLM startups, compared to only, by my count, maybe $100 million into AGI research startups working on new ideas. Frontier research is closed source right now. The GPT-4 paper had no technical details shared. The Gemini paper had no technical details shared on its longer context innovation. And even the AlphaProof announcement that just came out from DeepMind a few weeks ago was just a blog post. 50% of the students that I meet, and I've been meeting a lot recently, tell me that they don't think working on AGI is an important problem or an interesting problem now because they think it's already a solved problem. And now we have proposed AI policy here in California, like SB 1047, that will further slow down AI research. To discover AGI and get all those benefits, we need to fix this. And that is why I co-founded 2 months ago ARC Prize with Francois. ARC Prize is a $1 million competition to beat and, importantly, open source a solution to this benchmark. We launched it, mentioned 2 months ago, and it remains unbeaten to this day. And that's on top of the last 5 years of evidence. Taken together, I think this is an incredibly strong piece of public evidence we now have that we need new ideas in order to discover AGI. A solution to this competition will be a completely new programming paradigm, one where you can program computers through examples as opposed to instruction. And I think this is going to be our very first form of AGI that exists. In order to claim any money in the prize, an ARC Prize, you have to commit to open sourcing and publishing your code and ideas into the public domain. Our goal with ARC Prize is to help reestablish the open science and open innovation AI environment of the 2010s in order to re-accelerate our discovery of this really important technology. So, I started with this question: can we open source AGI? But I think this premise of this question may be flawed because today's weak and closed AI innovation environment means that what we're doing is we're hoping that a single big AI lab is going to discover AGI in isolation. And hope is a very bad innovation policy. I think the public evidence shows us that AGI needs new ideas, and open source is the world's best demonstrated generator of new ideas. We need to do work to fix the AI innovation environment around us. VCs should be investing in new AGI ideas. Founders should be building more AGI labs. Students should be researching new AGI ideas. Policymakers should be incentivizing AI innovation and open source, and all of us, I think, should be demanding open source AI from our representatives. I conclude with this. If you want to live in the future and help accelerate the discovery of all of those great unknown unknowns and help more people benefit from all of that progress, we need AGI. AGI needs new ideas, which needs open source. Thank you.